Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are looking at a set of source material that is just um, intensely focused on one singular idea.
Right.
And that idea is the overwhelming, almost unimaginable magnitude of untapped human potential. This isn't just self-help. It's a deep foundational look at the capability locked inside every single one of us, but viewed through a really inspirational theological lens.
It's an extraordinary perspective, and the sources, they don't really ease you into it, do
No.
they? They start with this statement that's just designed to stop you dead in your tracks.
I know the one you mean.
They argue that if you want to find the wealthiest spot on this entire planet, it's not the massive oil fields we read about or the famous diamond mines.
You're talking about that paradox of unrealized wealth.
Exactly. They say the wealthiest spot is your local cemetery.
The graveyard.
The graveyard. Think about that for a second. The source argues this ground is filled with dreams that never came to pass, songs that were never sung, books never written.
And potential that just tragically remained potential.
That's it.
What a profound and, frankly, a terrifying premise.
Yeah.
It frames our entire lives as this race against the clock to release this internal treasure.
It does.
So our mission for this deep dive is clear. We need to understand the true nature of this dormant ability, where it comes from, why the sources claim up to, 90% of our capacity lies unused.
90%. It's a staggering number.
And the keys laid out for maximizing it. Okay, so let's unpack this first piece. How exactly does the material define this potential?
Well, it gives 4 key terms: dormant ability, reserve power, untapped strength, and unused success. Fundamentally, everything in life begins as potential. Nothing is instant.
Nothing is instant. That really pushes back against our whole modern expectation of, immediate gratification. We want results yesterday.
It does, because the material argues that the whole concept of instant results is flawed. Even phenomena we call miracles, they're not instant. They were simply processes that have been dramatically sped up.
Okay.
The creator operates on this principle of potential. So every outcome starts as an invisible seed that requires, sustained development, time, and effort to manifest.
And to visualize this, the source offers a pretty striking analogy: the sculptor.
Right. The wealthy plantation owner cuts down this massive tree, and he dismisses the leftover stumps as just worthless, discarded junk wood.
But the sculptor sees something different.
He does. He begs for a piece of that worthless wood, drags his ugly trunk back to his studio, and he works on it, hammering and chiseling for days. And then eventually he unveils a beautifully sculpted, valuable bird.
The insight being that junk is in the eye of the beholder.
Exactly. Some people just look at things, at people, at themselves, but others see. They see the invisible value trapped inside the material.
That completely shifts the definition of worth, doesn't it?
Yeah.
From external appearance to internal capacity. It means every person, no matter their current state, has this priceless value waiting to be freed. And that brings us to the source itself. I mean, if the potential is so vast, where does this seemingly unlimited resource come from?
The source material is very direct on this. The creator himself is the potential principle. If you look at the definition of God used in this text, he's described as omnipotent,
Omni meaning all,
and potent meaning full of power. She is essentially all potential.
So everything that exists now was, at some point, contained invisibly within the creator.
Exactly. And the act of creation then becomes a perfect model for how we should approach unlocking our own ability. The text highlights that God first conceived the plan. He thought it out, and then he spoke to make the invisible concept visible.
And the material really emphasizes that the act of speaking was hard work. It wasn't just some effortless magic.
It wasn't. I mean, if the creator, who is unlimited, had to rest after creation, the sheer act of bringing things from the invisible realm of thought into physical visibility must have been, strenuous.
The lesson for us being that it takes intense, sustained effort, not just wishing. Okay, here's where the material presents a powerful challenge that seems, deeply counterintuitive. It says one of the greatest enemies of potential is not failure, but success.
That's a necessary challenge, isn't it?
How can success be a roadblock?
Because we're conditioned to celebrate it and then sort of settle into that achievement. But the source demands that we never accept our present state or our last accomplishment as final. The minute we become satisfied, we lose that internal tension that you need for growth.
So success isn't the finish line, it's just a milestone. The danger is the mental state of settling.
Yes. You conclude that you've reached your peak, rather than accepting that you are a being of continuous potential. The psychology behind it is, once you define yourself by your last success, you stop searching for the next greater version of yourself. You stop challenging what's locked inside.
That's a powerful distinction. Now let's tie that deep potential to our core identity. The material makes a definitive statement. Who you are is related to where you came from.
And the creation process illustrates this perfectly. When the creator wanted plants, he spoke to the dirt. When he wanted animals, he spoke to the water. But when he created human beings, the text says he spoke to himself,
So man came out of God,
bears his image, and is fundamentally spirit.
which completely reframes how we should measure our self-worth. It means the key to understanding your true potential is in the source, the inventor, not in the opinions of society.
Exactly. You don't try to figure out a machine by asking the machine. You go to the manual. The sources give examples like God looking at a shepherd boy David and seeing a future king, or looking at flaky Simon and calling him Peter the Rock.
So it's about seeing potential based on inherent capacity, not current performance. But the text acknowledges that something tragic happened. This original potential was capped off.
This cap is the core human problem, and the sources detail the methods used to destroy this potential. First, they say the understanding of God was destroyed, convincing humanity that the Creator was holding back wisdom.
And second, the distortion of our self-concept, leading to shame and, well, professional cover-ups. We're always trying to fix externally what we feel is flawed internally.
And third, and this is critical, the destruction of true intelligence. The sources distinguish between spiritual discernment knowledge that's not learned but sensed internally,
Right.
and knowledge gained only through external senses and education.
So man became overly reliant on external information. If we apply that to today, it's like the difference between internally knowing a solution and needing to Google it to validate that knowledge.
Yes, exactly. We become victims of information overload, constantly looking outside for validation instead of discerning the internal path. That loss of connection is what restricts the flow.
It sounds like a continuous internal war. The text frames it as a battle between two forces. One using a cap to hold potential in, and the other using a crowbar to bring forth abundant life.
And that cap is fundamentally sin, the self-limiting choices that stunt our growth. If you feel like your life is clogged or restricted, the sources say those actions have built up a blockage in your internal wellspring.
So that brings us to the practical side. The keys to releasing this unlimited potential. We have to start with intentionality. The source material stresses that God has a detailed plan, a book on you, from Psalm 139.
A plan for every single day of your life before you were even born. It's vast. And what's amazing is the grace included. If you've gone off script, the Creator offers a rewrite. You can start fresh.
Which is hugely reassuring. That blueprint still exists no matter what.
Yes.
And that blueprint links to what the text calls the law of demand. How does that work?
The principle is that the potential of a thing is determined by the demands the Creator makes on it. If a manufacturer demands a car go 200 miles per hour, they have to build the capacity for that into the engine.
So if God commands something like love your enemies or dominate the earth,
The ability to do it is already built in. It's the Creator's ultimate money-back guarantee. The problem is never a lack of ability. It's the lack of willingness to execute the pre-installed capacity.
that's a huge shift in responsibility, from ability to action. Now, what about the process for making this potential visible? The text lays out a clear four-step transformation.
It starts with thought, the silent word. That moves to idea, which is the concept. From there, it has to move into imagination. And imagination isn't just dreaming. The text defines it as the visual plan or display.
And crucially, that imagination must become a documented plan. Why is that so important? Why can't we just keep it in our heads?
Because a goal kept only in the head is, well, it's vulnerable. It can just vaporize under pressure. A documented plan is a documented imagination. Without a written goal for the next 3 months or the next year, you have no anchor. You get dragged back to old habits.
The documented plan is the physical evidence of your commitment. We also need to talk about challenging external limits. The sources say our original purpose is to dominate the earth, which means we're wired to control habits, money, drugs, alcohol, not be controlled by them.
Absolutely. The material insists we refuse to let physical or environmental limits dictate our potential. I mean, think about Roosevelt in a wheelchair or Helen Keller.
But let's be real, it's incredibly difficult to tell someone facing a major handicap or extreme poverty that their environment shouldn't dictate their ability. What is the source actually suggesting here?
It's not suggesting it's easy. It's suggesting that your true identity, the spirit from the creator, is not your physical body, your dirt house, or your environment. The potential resides outside of those things. The moment you define yourself by the limitation, you've given it power over the potential.
So it's a refusal to accept the myth that our external reality is our internal capacity. And this ties back to shortcuts, right?
Yeah.
Like Ben Johnson and steroids.
Right. Shortcuts negate potential because they rely on an external crutch, not the internal pre-installed capacity. We may never know what his true internally generated potential actually was.
So to sustain this genuine potential, the prerequisite is constant attachment to the source.
Yes, a branch must remain attached to the vine. The goal is to be a disciple one committed to abiding in the source, not merely a Christian, which can sometimes just be a label. Only the disciple maximizes potential because they maintain that flow of life.
And the source acts as a gardener in this process, using pruning shears.
The creator, the gardener, cuts off bad habits, bad attitudes, stunting relationships. This isn't punishment. It's purification to maximize performance. Pruning, though it can be painful, frees up energy that was being wasted on dead wood.
Okay, let's tackle the ultimate philosophical challenge the text offers, which seems to contradict a major piece of mainstream psychology, Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Right. Maslow's theory suggests we're driven by base needs: first food, shelter, and only then do we move up to things like self-worth. The source material flatly rejects this.
It points to the teaching to seek first the things of God.
The material posits that you should seek self-worth and identity first. If you know who you are, you realize provision must follow because you're worthy of it. You aren't driven by the need for shelter. Those things are a consequence of realizing your inherent identity.
So life isn't about hustling for needs.
No, life is already joy, peace, gentleness, the fruit of the Spirit, which are already deposited within you.
You don't need external success to enjoy life. You need the abundant internal life to truly enjoy external things. That brings us back to the sheer scope of this. The sources argue our potential is so vast, it requires an eternal life to fully bring it out.
We were created for continuous, eternal fulfillment. But realizing that scope, it demands intensity. It requires moving beyond just wishing for things and cultivating true desire.
And the text defines desire in a very challenging way. It's not some mild preference.
No. Desire means craving something so much you're willing to sacrifice for it, even if it costs you your life. And you might ask, is that literal? In a sense, yes. You have to sacrifice your entire known life, your comfortable habits, your limiting views of yourself, to realize the new potential.
What stands out to me in all this is the final, sobering observation. The source material notes that only a minute percentage will experience a significant portion of their true potential.
And that's echoed in other texts where Jesus himself said, only a few find it. The potential is there because the Creator wired you for it. The question isn't whether you can do it. The question is whether you will choose to join the few who dare to try.
That choice determines whether your potential is realized.
Or if your greatest value will remain buried in the wealthiest spot on the planet, waiting in the cemetery. And that responsibility and the freedom that comes with it is entirely yours.